Welcome to City Cinematheque, where the art and pleasure of the movies are the subject of serious discussion. I'm your host, Jerry Carlson, and I teach film studies at the City College of the City University of New York. Today we're presenting the 1930 film Murder, directed by the very young Alfred Hitchcock. This is only his third sound film. It's creative in any number of ways, and it also has embryonic elements of what we all know as the Hitchcock film. It's part of our series, Hitchcock Before Hollywood. We'll be talking about many aspects of the film, including the whole idea of an innocent person unjustly accused. Joining us to do that will be the distinguished Hitchcock scholar, Professor Sidney Gottlieb. Now, let's visit Britain in the early 1930s in Murder. Welcome back to City Cinematheque. I hope you've enjoyed this opportunity to see what you might call an embryonic Alfred Hitchcock. It's only his third sound film. He's already an experienced filmmaker, but it's a highly accomplished work, rich in any number of ways. And I'm happy to say we have with us today a distinguished Hitchcock scholar. No, but it's the truth, Sid. Professor Sidney Gottlieb from Sacred Heart University, where he teaches in the Department of Communication and Media Arts. Sid has written and edited a number of books on Hitchcock and is one of the editors of the Hitchcock Annual. I think you're editing like the 26th edition now?
Yeah, the years pass by pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's
the 26th volume, and so
there you are.
Watch for it. Good stuff.
Okay, good.
There's always new things to say about Hitchcock, valuable new things.
Well, yeah, exactly. We are of a generation that we have seen the instantiation of Hitchcock as a major 20th century artist.
Yeah.
Something there's no debate on this stage of the certainly deserves, and you've got 26 and more volumes to demonstrate in all kinds of ways. So let's go back to this. This is, as I just said, the third, only his third sound film. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot here that's going to be there later, but it's not necessarily exactly the form. What interests you about this film?
Oh God, so many things.
Okay, well,
but
start.
one of the really exciting things about this film, Hitchcock had an expression that he used to use, especially in his interview with Truffaut.
Right.
And he would say all the juices were flowing, where things kind of came together, not only for himself as the filmmaker, but the script and the other people involved in the film. And it took more than Hitchcock to make a Hitchcock film, of course.
Right, absolutely.
This was certainly one of those moments. The juices were really flowing. And one of the things I like particularly about the film is that it's innovative.
Yes.
It's like he has a new toy, and I don't mean to say that in any demeaning or condescending way, but the new toy of making a sound film rather than a silent film. And I think one of the challenges for him was to adopt the new technology without leaving the old technology behind. So this is one of those true masterpieces of the new sound cinema, but also clearly set fully in silent cinematics. And so innovative. You feel like he's discovering things as he's shooting the film.
Right. And I think it's worth pointing out that Hitchcock, like virtually all of the great filmmakers, had this omnivorous curiosity about the cinema.
Yeah.
And the 1920s is when he's a very young man, is an extraordinary era of experimentation. Yes, in his own cinema in Britain, but also in European cinema, most particularly with the Soviet montage, with German expressionism, with all of the people experimenting in French cinema, and he's on top of all of that.
He is absolutely. And again, I yield to no one in admiring Hitchcock, and I use the term, he's the great auteur. But an auteur, you don't make films just spin them out of your one person's head. So his collaborators, the people he worked with, and very often he worked with a team, and you see that in Murder, people that he's used before and will use again, but also the influences.
Right.
He was omnivorous. He was very hungry to learn about what film could do. And as they say, you don't imitate, but you kind of steal and you steal from the best. And exactly the people that you mentioned. He loved the Soviet films. He loved Eisenstein's films. The French filmmakers, the innovative avant-garde filmmakers of the time. He took from all sorts of different places, and then he added something of his own to that brew. But you're right. It's as though he made films with the entire history of film within himself.
Well, I think that couldn't really be better phrased. I'm going to go highfalutin on you and introduce the word, the bricoleur, somebody who takes all of these things and then creates a new work out of the kind of the magic chemistry of putting these things that pre-exist. Yes. But combining them in new ways, and that's sort of supremely what he does.
It's exactly what he does, and I think that's very high praise. Now, if you're going to go haughty, I'll go haughty too, and I'll raise the great literary critic T.S. Eliot, who had this wonderful notion of tradition and the individual talent.
Well, good, yeah.
And you've got the individual talent and what Shakespeare adds, what Milton adds, what Kurosawa adds, what Hitchcock adds. But they have such a bedrock of the tradition. And you pick from this and you pick from that. And Murder is a film that from one moment to another, he changes. He changes styles, he changes moods, he changes techniques. And behind it is a sense of fun, a sense of energy, a sense that he's really enjoying what he's doing. And you know what? I like when you introduced Hitchcock as one of the great artists of modern times. And you didn't necessarily kind of narrow it down by saying one of the great cinematic artists. I think he is truly a master of cinema, but so much so that he brings cinema to, if not equal footing with the other arts, then we don't have to look down and say, well, there's the traditional arts and then there's filmmaking. No, I think Hitchcock was one of the directors really responsible for raising cinema to the full pantheon of the arts.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to, since we're going to continue talking about him as the early career, but I want to flash forward, as it were, and say that at a moment, 30 years beyond this, in which other people in Hollywood were seeing television as something that was in a kind of death conflict with cinema. Hitchcock is, again, the person who says, well, I don't think you have to see it that way. This is just another creative tool, and we might be able to, say, work in short form storytelling with great innovation, and then all of a sudden he becomes, a major creator of television as well. So the career is really bookended in those kinds of ways.
Yeah, that's one of the continuities. He always had that spirit, and your term bricoleur, let's take from the best, and that includes filmmakers, but that includes other arts as well.
Absolutely correct.
So your comment is particularly relevant to the film we're talking about today, Murder, which is very theatrical, which is, it's based on a novel. There were rumors that it was a novel that was made into a play. I'm not sure that's really true or not, but it's a very theatrical novel. It's set in the theater. There are theater people, and the whole idea of theatricality is central to the novel and, more to our purposes, the film. But this is Hitchcock not being intimidated. There was a sense early on in filmmaking that filmmakers wanted to be protective of this new art, and they wanted to separate it from some of the arts. Plays do this, you do this in the theater, but we do this. Well, I don't think Hitchcock was so much concerned with separating things, although he was very much concerned with developing what he called pure cinema. But pure cinema is an amalgam of other art forms, and it includes the theater, not only for the techniques and the rich history and everything like that, but for the setting. So yeah, your comment again is quite on target for this film, which draws from all sorts of other arts, not in conflict with them. No, they were helpmates.
Well, and of course, this is a debate as well as a practical issue at exactly this moment, because cinemas around the world are having, for the first time, to recruit. Obviously, theater people were always in films, but all of a sudden, you have to have people who can speak in particular ways, who have that capacity in acting. You have some initial technical limitations. So we have, always the joke about the fact that they all have to be, sitting around the same table, talking at the same object where the microphone is hidden, the kind of thing that's made fun of, that many people deliciously love in Singing in the Rain, okay?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it raises exactly what you're talking about, this aesthetic question. So what is theater and what is cinema? And so he takes theater as a setting here, and then he uses this incredible array of cinematic tools to de-theatricalize the very setting.
Absolutely. I think he always wanted to have it both ways, or always. And what you described as kind of one of the pitfalls of early cinema, all of a sudden you can capture synchronized dialogue. So there was a tendency to, exactly as you say, and Singing in the Rain is the perfect example of it, where people started to gravitate around the microphone. And Hitchcock had a phrase for that. He called it photographs of people talking.
Right.
So that was a pitfall. The term that I mentioned earlier, pure cinema, was something that Hitchcock defined in opposition to that, which is to say visual storytelling, using the resources of editing. And there, of course, you mentioned Eisenstein earlier and some of the other great practitioners of montage, using all the visual resources, not relying on dialogue to tell the story or to indicate the mood of a character. But his pure cinema also involved a really, really skillful use of dialogue. Absolutely. And we see that in Murder. Murder is, on the one hand, a very talky film, and on the same hand, if that's the metaphor you use, at the same time, is a very cinematic film. So again, Hitchcock tries to use all of those resources. And that's part of what makes Murder such an interesting film to me, and also a kind of template for what he does in his later films. Right. In his later films, Vertigo, Psycho, Rear Window, pick the ones that are your favorite, really, pick any one. I think one of the things that can be said about it is it's Hitchcock trying to master both of those polarities. He wants to get the most he can out of visual storytelling, editing, montage, the so-called pure cinema in that regard, but he wants to have good dialogue, witty dialogue, use the resources of sound, which also includes music. Murder is a very musical film too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in two senses, in the sense that it's a film that you can watch for its rhythms, literally. I mean, it has a musical style or structure to it at the same time that it uses and thematicizes music. I mean, again, the music in the story world in the last scene.
Yes.
The music on the radio of the famous shaving scene.
Yes.
Okay. The shaving scene. Shall we talk about that for a
second?
second?
Absolutely. And just to go one step further with the music, it's a theme from Tristan and Isolde, which is not just a kind of mood music. Now, you don't have to know Wagner to get why he uses it. You hear the music, and it has a drama. It communicates the emotional drama. And that's part of what's at the forefront there. He's feeling very emotional. But literally, later on, Tristan and Isolde is a motif that's taken up by Bernard Herrmann in various moments when he wants to bring out, for lack of a better term, the deeply emotional romantic elements. So yeah, music is a key part of that sequence. Right. Now, what Hitchcock was particularly proud about there, see, there's a really good example of where he's blending visual storytelling but using the resources of sound.
Yeah.
So there's dialogue there, and it's spoken dialogue, but his lips aren't moving.
Right.
It's an internal monologue, which you would get from theater. I forget the timing, whether it would be Eugene O'Neill that he would have in mind. But he had other examples in mind for the resources of that kind of dramatic monologue. He's got the music going. He's got the long take of a character. You can see that he's thinking. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that film took as one of its goals, now distinguished from a novel, the novel is famous for getting us inside a person's head. Right. And you like to think of, well, cinema gives us the outside. But I think what the great early filmmakers tried to do is say, we can have that too. We can have that psychological insight into what a character is thinking and feeling. So that sequence that you call attention to, it's a wonderful example of that.
Right. By the way, I want to just loop back on one other thing about the way in which he uses dialogue itself in this musical kind of way. Yeah. And just pointing out one of the other scenes. There's the scene in which they're discussing an issue in the kitchen as they're preparing the tea, and that would be, in a certain sense, that's the classic challenging scene in which they're supposed to be around the stove and not moving. But what Hitchcock says is, well, that's not actually the way people do things. They talk while they're performing all kinds of tasks, and he sets this up so that he moves the camera tracking back and forth, and you have this whole sense of it's not only good dialogue and you're learning things about background, but you have this sense of the kind of eminent humanity of these two women trying to figure these things out. This is expressed not only through the dialogue, but through their movement, and in turn, the fact that he can capture that movement with his tracking camera.
I'm so glad you called attention to that moment, because Hitchcock was a filmmaker who worked in moments, and he had, I mean, when you think of a Hitchcock film, there's an organic unity to it, and that's part of what makes him the real artist that he is. But we also think of him as a master of moments.
Correct.
When you think of Psycho, you think of the shower murder sequence, or Marion Crane driving in a car. In any event, there are certain set pieces. This is not a set piece from Murder that you would ordinarily think of. You would gravitate towards something like the shaving sequence, or like the conclusion, which is clearly an extended kind of high moment. And it's as though the filmmaker underlines for us, pay attention, interesting things are going to happen here. But the moments in a Hitchcock film, the great moments, the skillful moments, the effective moments, are not always the ones that call attention to themselves by pyrotechnics or whatnot. Exactly as you say. This is a film that I think Hitchcock knew what he was doing there. And he knew that some people watching this sequence would say, Hitchcock, you are actually giving a little commentary, almost a witty kind of demonstration that sound film does not have to be limited to a camera that stays still and a bunch of characters that group themselves around a microphone. Remember that one of the things that happened with the advent of sound is the technology became a little bit more, huger cameras and sound booths, and you made noise if you moved a camera. I think this is just a wonderful example of Hitch's determination and actually very self-conscious affirmation. I'm not going to be bound by that. So it's so interesting that you pointed out that sequence. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So let's go back to the fact that there is something that Hitchcock himself says is atypical of this film, and that's the fact that the premise is actually a kind of very classical whodunit, where all the evidence points in one direction. We see the structure is of the discovery of the crime, of the trial. We can talk about a little bit of that. But then the doubt that Sir John has.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he has to deconstruct all the assumptions and then construct something else. Now, what's really interesting is that Hitchcock himself says he's not interested in those kinds of stories because the challenge to him is most of those stories are nothing more than a puzzle.
Yes.
And what he wants to say is, okay, if I'm going to take this story, I can make this more than a puzzle. We'll have a real investment in the characters.
Yeah.
We'll have a real investment in the scenes and what we see, and I think we're again on the same beam here. Yeah. So that's part of his challenge.
It is.
Is that how can I make something that, in one sense, I disrespect into something that I respect as cinema?
Yeah, there are so many challenges that he faces with murder, and that's another wonderful one. And I don't want to wrap this up too patly, but to me it's another example of he has it both ways.
Okay.
It's not as though the secret of whodunit is revealed in the last moments of the film. We know about halfway through the film whodunit. We don't know at the beginning. So it's as though he gets the first half of the film and he squeezes what he can out of the whodunit. And then we pretty much know. And then he squeezes the essence out of, now that we know, the question is not who committed the murder, but what lies behind it. How is the person going to be revealed? The whodunit, is that a term?
Well, yeah.
Why he did it? So again, I think he is able to get the best of both worlds there. And the key to him is he wants to protract the experience of cinema. He doesn't want it to be just one quick moment, and that moment might be at the ending of the film, and okay, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. He wants to have us engaged and involved, and wondering not only who done it, but we know who did it and how is this going to play out. So we get 93 minutes of excitement. This sets the template. And there were earlier Hitchcock films that did that as well.
Right.
But when you were asking earlier, in what way is this film like his later films? I think he's trying to do pretty much the same thing in the later films. He wants to have it both ways, and he wants us to walk in. He wants to get excited from the very first shot, and the opening of the film is wonderful. Yeah. Things are happening, we don't know what's happening. Yeah. He's using references to expressionist cinema, to avant-garde films, and a cat, where'd that cat come from? So he's pulling out all the stops, he's got us, he holds us to the end, and then things end. And you know what? Hitchcock wants to hold us even beyond the end. He had this wonderful phrase of what he called icebox talk, also in his interviews. And Hitchcock was wonderful in his interviews. And he kind of told us what he was doing. And that's part of the fun. You know, we kind of know what to look for, and we're still surprised. We're still engaged in it. But he wanted the experience of his films to linger on even once, you know, the end and the closing music and the lights go on. He wanted us to go home and still be talking about it. And I think he had it that way. He gets us during the duration of the film, and he holds us there afterwards.
Well, let me give a very concrete example of that. There are several versions of the film, and we're watching the version of the film. But one of the other versions has Sir John go to the prison and meet her there.
Yeah.
And then we have the scene that we finally see, which is revealed to be a theatrical production, and then we get the curtain.
Yeah.
Hitchcock chose to take that scene of the prison out. Now you can talk about rhythmic reasons, et cetera, but you can also talk about the fact that the ending becomes much more interesting there because, wait a minute, is this pure theater
Yeah.
Or are they really a couple? And he leaves that as the icebox talk. I mean, and if you wish to go for the full closure, of course it's both. You may.
Yeah.
But he leaves it open that if you think, well, wait a minute, I thought this was them really, but then it's theater, so is this and he wants that, that kind of vibration, you would say, of thought about it.
I like that metaphor of a vibration or an oscillation. The idea is that the energy continues. And the way I think about it is Hitchcock's endings never end. His films never end. Now, there is some kind of closure.
Yeah.
And again, I keep going back to the idea of he has it both ways. There is a way in which the films resolve, sometimes even on multiple levels. But there are also ways in which, exactly as you say, they don't quite resolve. Mm-hmm. And he continues to toy with us. He continues to play with us. You used the term bricoleur earlier, and I think as part of that, there's a way in which he's also a trickster.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And he's a manipulator, and he plays with us. And that continues to the very end, through the very end, even beyond it. To get heavy here for a little moment, his Hitchcock films deal with some pretty serious, you might even say philosophical themes. Illusion versus reality. Can we distinguish between the two? Do we know, is there a dividing line or an overlap, or one flows into the next? And when you say we're not sure, we see the closing sequence of this film, and it seems to be a culmination of the relationship between the Sir John and the main female character in his drawing room. And our heart beats there, and we think, the proverbial happy ending. And then the camera pulls back, exactly as you say, oh, this is a play version. Now, that doesn't deny the quote-unquote reality of it, but it brackets it, and it plays with it in a way. And it leaves open the possibility of what we normally think of and sometimes really want. Let's be honest about it. We've been educated by Hollywood movies. We love happy endings, you know?
Yep.
Hitchcock withholds that from us.
And speaking of endings, guess what? We just got to 2 hours, okay? Oh, yeah. These things happen on TV shows. I've been told. I've been told. So I hope that you've enjoyed our discussion of murder. There's a lot more to talk about this film. So in fact, I think Sid and I want to encourage you to have an icebox talk yourselves. You don't have to stop talking about this film just because we're going to go away. Nor do you have to stop thinking about CUNY TV, even though this show is going to be over in a minute, because you can stay watching CUNY TV, or you can visit our website. Why don't you go to www.tv.cuny.edu. There you're going to find information about City Cinematheque, but all of the other programming on City University Television. So please go to www.tv.cuny.edu. Sid, thanks for an exciting and illuminating 30 minutes worth of chat about this. Love to have you back sometime, and we'll continue the conversation, okay?
I look forward to it.
Okay, super. And please join us again on other episodes of City Cinematheque as we continue our stroll through the archives of film history. But for now, it's goodbye.